Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about what my hair loss feels like. So I want to add this video to the symptom playlist. I did this little series recently that talks about what my symptoms feel like. I have talked about all of my symptoms, and I believe I did make a video about my hair loss journey. But that was, I think, more talking about how it happened, or I guess like personally how it made me feel. But I wanted to talk about the actual physical sensations. And I also wanted to clear up because a lot of people will start telling you, like, if you start describing a symptom, people are just like, oh, you probably have alopecia, or it's probably stress, because those are other conditions that are related to hair loss. And this is not that. We know that I have a chronic illness, and every time I have some kind of new symptom, I'm like, I know that it's part of that condition or my overall condition. Um, so I wanted to talk about the how it actually feels. Um, so I recently made a video of my sensitivities, and I did describe a little bit about it. I didn't focus specifically on my hair loss, um, but I focused on all of my sensitivities and how they evolved. And with my hair loss, it started in 2000, late 2019, and I started experiencing very, very intense itchiness on my head. And I started blaming a shampoo that I had been using. It's a shampoo that's actually, it's a really good shampoo, but it's a very clarifying shampoo, and I felt that it was probably stripping my head of all the oils, and that's what was causing the itching. But the itching was very, very intense. Like, it didn't feel like an itching on the top of my skin, like when you have a bug bite or when you have like eczema. It felt like it was underneath the skin. It was really, really weird. But it was very, very intense. I wouldn't scratch my head. I would kind of just like pat it, but I always, when I get very itchy, like with a bug bite, they always tell you like don't scratch it because it's gonna make it worse. So I wouldn't scratch, but it was a very, very intense itchy feeling. Um, and my mom had been mentioning to me. She said, I've been finding a lot of your hair everywhere, and I was just like, no, no, no. Until I started feeling, I would be sitting down and I would feel like almost like when a little bug lands on you. I kept feeling that sensation on the back of my arms. Um, and I was just like, what is that? And I started noticing that the strands were falling off. The strands fall off completely. They fall off from the follicle. So you see the entire strand with the little bulb at the end. The other thing that I notice with the hair loss, apart from the sensation of of the scalp, the itchiness, my hair also feels different as well. It looks different and it feels different. It feels like softer and finer. It feels obviously it feels a lot thinner, but I notice that it's limp. So I don't know if the follicle is actually moving or changing. I don't know if it's like widening and that's why the hair is just kind of falling out. But it becomes very limp. Whereas like when you just recently wash your hair, it's very like fluffy and that kind of thing. My hair always kind of had that vibe. I would wake up in the morning and I had like this lion's mane of hair. And so I noticed that my hair would be very limp. I would notice in pictures that I would take, you're taking selfies on Instagram, my hair was very limp. It was like very stuck to my head. I don't know how to describe, I guess like just very stuck, how it looks kind of like that, like it's just very flat on your head. And my hair was never like that. I always had like very fluffy. You guys can actually go back and look at my old videos. My hair was very like up. It was very, actually almost kind of frizzy. It kind of poofed out in a weird way, especially after I washed it. But I would notice that it would do this like limp thing when it would start falling out. And then sometimes when it stopped falling out, it kind of went back to its non limp. Um, I don't even know how to describe it. It just wasn't limp. It didn't feel, it even felt almost thicker in a way, thicker and a little bit drier. Um, so that was weird, that and just the constant feeling, the constant strands on the back of my arm. It was just so bizarre. But I want to make it clear that this is not alopecia or stress. Alopecia is an autoimmune illness, where I think your immune system attacks the hair follicle, and so your hair starts to fall out. But your hair falls out everywhere, and that's one of the weirdest things about this type of hair loss. And I did ask my doctor. I was like, I'm not losing my eyebrows. I'm not losing my eyelashes. Clearly, I mean, I have plenty of eyebrow. I'm not losing my arm hair. I have tons of arm hair. To be honest, I feel like my arm hair has actually gotten worse over time. I have a lot of arm hair. It's just the hair on my scalp that was falling out. And like I said, it falls out in complete strands. We're not talking about broken hair. You can see the follicle. And with alopecia, I believe you lose all of your hair everywhere, every inch of your body. I believe all of your hair falls out because it's attacking every hair follicle. And stress. And so, of course, that's the other thing that a doctor will tell you, like, oh, are you stressed out? It's because you're stressing, your hair's falling out. I remember I had a cousin who was going through a stressful time. I think like she had been working in like a shoe store and it got robbed, and she was robbed like at gunpoint or something. And so she was really like going through a very stressful period of her life. I mean, that is very stressful. And she started losing her hair. And the one thing I noticed with people that lose their hair from stress is that it comes out in chunks. So they'll have like bald patches. Actually, by the way, this is a birthmark right here, but that's kind of what stress hair loss looks like. It's like a patch of hair that you lose. But you lose them in different places of your head. I've always had that. I've had that since I was a kid. I don't have that anywhere else. And she would like show us. She would show us, and her hair was really short. And she would show us, and it was just like a patch of like missing hair. And I remember being like so traumatized by that because I've always had tons of hair. I've never had issues with my hair up until 2019. So I was like, this isn't stress. Like, this is something else. It's weird, And again, that really weird, intense itching on my head was bizarre to me. So yeah, I want to kind of make that distinction between alopecia and stress because this is not that. It sheds very evenly around the head. And again, with stress, it's patchy. You have patches that come out from different areas. This is very, very even shedding all over the place. Like I don't think there's a part of my head, like I can't feel a part that is thicker and a part that is thinner. It seems like it's a very, very even hair loss. And it's not alopecia. Alopecia's I don't think alopecia is even either. I don't think, from the little bit that I know of alopecia, you start losing a lot of your hair, but I do believe it's patchy. And eventually people with alopecia, I think they just kind of opt to just shave their head completely and wear wigs or that kind of thing because the hair loss is uneven, although it is everywhere. It's not just in one part of the body. This is it's a very even shedding. I didn't lose all of my hair. I lost about 50% in the most intense part of the hair loss. I lost about 50% of my hair. Granted, I had tons of hair to begin with, so I'm still very lucky to have hair left. But I did notice right here, for example, my part is a lot wider than it was before. It's much wider, and it has that kind of zigzaggy kind of look. Now it has that zigzaggy look, and before it was a lot more straight. And even, when I go like that, you can see that it's a little bit thinner. You can see more scalp. And of course, you sunburn easier. I have to be careful. I feel more heat on my head if I'm out in the sun, which is weird. And my mom has always had thin hair. My sister was born with very thin hair. And so now I kind of am feeling their pain. I have to, whenever I go out, if I go out to the swap meet and I'm outside, I have to wear a hat or an umbrella. So, that's kind of, I guess, what it feels like. We did identify when I spoke to my doctor, she said, I think this is a histamine issue. And so at the time, I think I was having like nuts. I'm not supposed to eat nuts very much because they also cause oxalate issues with me. That's also in my symptom playlist if you want to know what that is. But I guess for whatever reason, I had started eating just a few nuts a day, and I think my body was just so hypersensitive that even just a handful was starting to cause this reaction. And, my body overreacted even after I stopped eating them. It took a while for this reaction to stop. It took about a year for the initial hair loss to stop. And the itchiness actually went away, or it improved. I will notice though, when I have something that is high histamine, for example, like strawberries, if I have nuts, I will start feeling I'll feel like a little tingle, like a little itchiness, and then I'll start seeing like a couple of strands just fall out. Um, it is worse with PMS, and my doctor did tell me that you release prostaglandins, which I think are like an inflammatory hormone. And I have noticed, especially recently, with PMS, the hair starts falling out a lot more intensely. It has started falling out after my exosomes treatment. It did start falling out again because it had stopped. It actually stopped. So it started in 2019. It stopped about a year later, probably late 2020. And I was just happy that it stopped. I didn't expect regrowth, which did happen the following year in 2021. And I started growing back my hair. So I probably had about 3/4 of the hair that I had before. So I did regain a lot of my hair, and I have started losing it again post exosomes. It could be because I stopped or because I did the exosomes, which they do say that you release histamine because it does like a lot of, nerve repair. I don't really know. I do know that you release histamine, but I also stopped my IVIG, which could be the reason why the hair loss is falling out. But when I started losing my hair in 2019, I had already been on IVIG for a year. And so I actually suspected first that the IVIG may be causing the hair loss. And I do believe that that is one of the more rare side effects of IVIG, that it can cause hair loss. But when I talked to my doctor and I told her about that sensation, the really, really intense itching on my scalp, I think she kind of put the pieces together, and she was like, I think that's a histamine issue. And I mean, yeah, histamine will make you itch, right? When you have allergies and things like that, your eyes itch, your nose itches. When a mosquito bites you, your skin itches. So it made sense that my scalp would be itching like crazy, and my hair would start falling out. So, at this point, I'm dealing with it because I'm hoping that the exosome treatment is going to help in the long run. I am gentle with my hair. I wash my hair every other day. I don't go in the pool every day because all of that kind of contributes to hair loss as well. So I try to be very gentle. I use gentle shampoos. I have a few shampoos that agree with me. I do have dandruff as well. That was another suspect, was that I may have like dermatitis on my scalp, dandruff, or a candida infection on my scalp. That was, I went to a dermatologist. She told me it could be like that kind of thing, like an overgrowth of yeast on the scalp. And so I have like one dandruff shampoo and then other gentle fragrance-free shampoos. But it's not that. It is definitely, internal issue. It's inflammatory, because histamine is, part of the inflammation process, I guess. The same with prostaglandins. And so, it is part of my chronic condition. And I have talked about how it makes me feel. So I won't go into just how it makes me feel personally, because I have made a video about that. I just want to talk about the sensation. And make that distinction between alopecia and stress, because those are very different. I don't know if people itch, by the way, when it comes to alopecia. I just know that they do lose hair everywhere. And this was weird because I was just losing hair on my scalp. I was not losing eyebrows. I actually think I may have lost some eyebrows at one point, but probably not to the extent that I lost hair on my head. Because if I would have lost the same amount of hair of my eyebrows than on my head, I wouldn't have had a lot of eyebrow left. it was hair on my scalp that was falling out. I wasn't losing, you know, arm hair or leg hair or anything like that. So it's a very strange sensation. It was very, very weird to feel that intense itchiness, because it's bizarre. Most of my sensitivities don't cause itchiness. They cause other sensations, maybe like burning or tingling if I put something on my skin that doesn't agree with my skin. With the food sensitivities, it's digestive issues, maybe stomach aches, headaches, you know, body aches. But the itchiness, which is very common with histamine problems or a histamine reaction, I had never really experienced. And an itchiness of that intensity was very, very strange and very new to me. So I automatically thought that it was something that I was putting on my scalp. But anyways, I just wanted to make this video. I'll add it to my symptom playlist so that it's with everything else. A lot of this stuff might be repetitive if you've watched my other videos, but I just want to kind of be specific, kind of hone in on specific symptoms and what they actually feel like, because I think it's helpful for people that may be suffering with it. For example, maybe you started feeling intense itching on your head and your hair started falling out. But your doctors are telling you, much like the dermatologist told me, she's like, no, you're fine. She even went through my hair with gloves and she was like, it was like a few strands that fell out. And so she kind of looked at me like, you know, what's wrong with you? But it could be a histamine problem. It may not be alopecia. It might not be stress. And I do think that the hair loss that comes with those other conditions is very distinct from what I experienced. So anyways, thank you for joining me. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.